So we got a little bit of Bryan Kohberger news, and we got some new pictures from the DELPHI case. We're going to talk about that a little bit here today. I'm JB Gunner. This is Crime Time. You guys got your wish. We're going to talk about Kohberger today. Let's go ahead and get on into it. Let's do it.
Bring it back.
What's going on, my precious little snack cakers? I'm JB Gunner. This is Crime Time. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic Friday, and hope you're going to have a wonderful weekend. Before we get into the story, I want to say thank you to everybody that supports the channel. Hell, any of my channels, regardless of platform, regardless of method you choose, whether it's Cash App, Patreon, Venmo, PayPal. Truth is, guys, I couldn't have done this for the last 19 years if it wasn't for you on all these different channels. You guys are what keeps me uncensored, and you guys are what keeps me here. So thank you guys so much. If you too find my content valuable, feel free to hit the links down below. Show some love, support the channel. We're gonna go ahead and get into all of this, guys. And by the way, while you're here, let me just say, if you go to the main page, I understand this is one of my other channels, but if you go to the Crime Time page and you scroll all the way down, you'll be able, you'll be able to see all of my other channels, my news channel, live stream channel, gaming channel, Healed, my wrestling channel. There's a sample size of some of my channels there. Feel free to go check it out. But guys, let's go ahead and jump right into Bryan Kohberger. Let's jump into Bryan Kohberger because there is a new document I want to go over with you guys. And it's, I mentioned it. I touched on it yesterday, but here's what we got. It is basically what it's called is a notice of intent to use IRE evidence is what it says. Comes now, the state of Idaho, by and through Ashley Jennings, Latah County Senior Deputy Prosecutor, and hereby gives notice, pursuant to Idaho Rule of Evidence 404, that the state of Idaho intends on presenting evidence of crimes, wrongs, or other acts, specifically video of traffic stop occurring at West Pullman Road in Moscow, Idaho on August 21st, 2022 involving Bryan Kohberger. Now, we all saw this video. I don't understand why that would have anything to do with the crime. So are they going to try to... So because he was in Moscow on Pullman Road, like somehow that says... Just because he's been there before, considering he lives 10 miles away... Like, that's weird. And so they're going to use the citation that he got that day as also evidence. The state intends to introduce this evidence for the purpose of proving defendant's identity, vehicle, address, and phone number. So they're just using the evidence to prove that he really is Bryan Kohberger. This vehicle is his vehicle, even though that's not proof that this is the vehicle used in the murders, and address and phone number. This issue has been previously addressed by the court in December 15, 2023, sealed order denying motion to dismiss indictment on grounds of biased grand jury, inadmissible evidence, lack of sufficient evidence. So this was already discussed. Remember when they tried to have the grand jury thrown out? This was a piece of the evidence that was part of that. It's weird, man. That's weird to me that like this is somehow important, right? It's strange to me. But guys, we're going to go ahead and keep things rolling because Megyn Kelly, the beautiful, sexy, conservative, I love him so much. Beautiful woman. She actually had a video today that I want to look over with you guys real quick. She had a couple. She does this every now and then where she talks to Howard Bloom. And every single time she does this, I always get information or at least opinions that I didn't know existed out there. So here's another one. And this is important. FBI may have illegally obtained DNA match in the Kohberger case. This is important because I believe after watching this, listening to this, that my previous video where I said they must throw this case out, they must throw this evidence out, I actually am more steadfast on that belief even now. So let's go ahead and check this out. You guys can check it out with me.
I don't want to overstate it, but it's possible the prosecution's case is falling apart.
Yes.
It did not go particularly well for them. Let's start with the DNA. What happened?
Now, keep in mind, Blum thinks Kohberger did it. So I love the fact that he seems honest when he does these interviews. It just feels that way. Even though I think he's wrong about a lot, there's a lot of, I love the fact he's willing to look at all the sides and see where the prosecution and the FBI may have blown this case by doing this whole thing illegally.
Well, the way these authorities got to Kohberger wasn't through any other evidence at the beginning.
That's
but
right.
Just a little speck of DNA.
Touch DNA.
Smaller than a piece of dust that was left on the button of a knife sheath that was left behind. They used this speck of DNA, they processed it so that they could give it to an FBI laboratory. The FBI laboratory then, after months of not admitting what they had done, it was revealed in the end of January in court that they had taken this DNA and they had uploaded it to two websites, ancestry DNA websites, that prohibit law enforcement from using this DNA.
And that's it. That's it. As simple as that. You have to throw out the DNA. You have to throw out the DNA. Because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't even... The fruit of the poisonous tree is a real thing. You have to throw this out. You have to dismiss this case. Now, I'm just going to say this. I don't care if he killed him or not. My constitutional rights are more important than those four girls. I'm saying it now. As an American, my constitutional rights and my law enforcement doing things by the books is more important than those four people. So even if Kohberger did it, which I'm not sure whether he did or not, he must be let go. This must be released. This evidence must be thrown out. It's that simple. It's period. Our Constitution matters more than any individual life. We, the people, matter way more than you, the person. That's the point.
The FBI did this not out of any evil reason, but just out of their zeal. You have to go back to the time of the killing. Here was a murder of four young children on the loose. They had really no clues except for this DNA. Except for this DNA, it was in many ways the perfect crime. They had no blood evidence, really. They had no evidence of anyone stalking these young college students. All they had was this DNA, so they ran with it. And this DNA allowed them to open up many other doors, ultimately having a series of search warrants that led to the suspect's, Brian Kohberger's, phone, his car, his apartment. But without that DNA, they couldn't have done any of it. Warrants.
They couldn't have got any search warrants. All of this was done without a search warrant. The initial DNA digging into people's genealogy was done without a search warrant. The FBI did it illegally. And because that was done illegally, everything else is fruit of the poisonous tree. It's that simple.
And now the defense is saying, wait a minute.
Yep.
This suspect's Fourth Amendment rights were violated
Absolutely
by
they
the
were.
FBI's going
Absolutely.
into these prohibited websites.
You've been saying this all along.
Yep.
You've been suspecting that the FBI got this match between the DNA, the touch DNA on the knife sheath, and matched it to Kohberger's father, possibly by doing something they're not allowed to do, which is use the commercial DNA websites that people like you and I might go to if we're looking for a long-lost relative. They have a public database. C.C. Moore, the original creator of genetic genealogy, talked to us about this a long time ago, saying there's only one that's totally public, and anyone can upload their DNA and see what's on there. The other two are fee-for-service private companies that are not allowed to be used by law enforcement. Otherwise, nobody would go on there. Right?
Absolutely.
They'd be like, if I ever committed a crime or have a relative down the line who might have committed a crime, I'm going to get him in trouble.
Yep.
So there's supposed to be this hard wall.
Hard wall.
And you said early on you suspected, because the FBI seemed to be very cagey about this whole thing. They didn't want to turn over the results of how they got this to anybody, that maybe they had done something they weren't allowed to. Go ahead.
Not only did they not want to turn over the results,
they destroyed it.
They said literally that they had ripped up the evidence of their...
They destroyed the evidence. I want you to think about that. What law enforcement officer what law enforcement is like, we're going to tear up this evidence. We don't want people to know there is no more. Do you see what I'm saying? It is hilarious to me. It is hilarious to me that the FBI did this shit and then tore up the evidence that they got from it, tore up it all. They don't even have it to present in court. If they don't have it to present in court, you have to throw it out. Like that evidence that the FBI had, they don't have it. It's been destroyed. That means everything, considering every other warrant and everything that happened after that, based on that poisonous tree, the fruit has to be thrown out. It's that simple.
Their research, they said we just threw it out.
Just
Who
threw
ever
it
heard
out,
of it in a major murder investigation, the FBI discarding evidence? But this is what they did.
Exactly.
But the defense kept on pressing and pressing, and now they got a judge to give him the evidence, and it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt, it came out in open court that the FBI violated the protocols of these two genetic websites.
That's it.
Now,
done.
How is that going to affect the case? The judge
wait. Before you answer that, let's just show the audience what Kohlberger's defense attorney, Ann Taylor, yes, that's her name, argued about this investigative genetic genealogy, IgG, evidence. Listen to her in SOT 41.
Your Honor, our position is that the court should suppress the IgG identification and everything that flows from that. This is supported by Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution, due process, Article 1, Section 17 of the Idaho Constitution. Your Honor, there was no warrant for several phases of the search that led to the IgG work, investigative genetic genealogy. And we think every single one of those stages, a warrant was required.
That's
None
right.
was given.
That's
and
right.
So this must be suppressed.
All of it's fucked up. All of it's illegal.
She's saying all the goods they got
everything,
after
all of it,
getting that hit have to be suppressed and cannot be used because they're in essence the fruit of the poisonous tree.
All of it.
Exactly. And if you look at what they had before then, there's not much except for one thing. After Kohlberger is arrested, he's in a Pennsylvania jail, and they do a cheek swab.
Yeah, he matched.
And the DNA from that cheek swab matches the DNA on the button of the knife sheath. That is pretty substantial evidence.
Yeah, fuck it.
But if they can get that thrown out, that will make a case that seems pretty much a shut case to be more open than shut.
That's right.
And there's going to be it's a possibility of a Franks hearing.
Here we go.
It's a judicial process named after a 1978 Supreme Court case where evidence was thrown out because the police had falsified information to get their warrants. The judge has not said he will have this Franks hearing, but he has read.
Having corrupt police is worse than having a loose killer. I'm going to say it now. Having corrupt police is worse than having a loose killer. At least a loose killer I can kill on my own. You see what I'm saying? But corrupt police have control and power over you. And the corruption that they use could damage your life and destroy everything that you have. And that is a problem. That is a problem. I'll take my chance with the killer. I'm 6'1", 300 pounds. I'll take my chance with Brian Kohlberger. Not a problem. But corruption in law enforcement is unacceptable under all circumstances.
Raised the possibility, and he's asked the lawyers to keep time available to have such a hearing. And if
that's not what the prosecution wanted to hear. The prosecution wanted to hear, there's no need for a hearing. This is ridiculous. You know, irrespective of how we got to Brian Kohlberger's father as being related to the person whose DNA was on the knife sheath, we know it is Brian Kohlberger's DNA because we ultimately took a cheek swab.
Don't matter. Don't care. You shouldn't have. If you wouldn't have been on some bullshit, you wouldn't know that.
That shows it was him. So the problem for the prosecution is the judge is not saying no. He's keeping the door open.
Right.
He might actually have a hearing on this. So it's at least a little interesting.
Right.
But can I just say this to what you just said, Howard? The DNA matching Kohlberger directly is absolutely devastating. There's no question. It's a terrible fact for the defense. But as I understand her argument, Ann Taylor's, it's that you would never have been cheek swabbing Brian Kohlberger if you hadn't been doing the shenanigans with the DNA and 23andMe. Like, she's saying you can't even use the cheek swab.
Nope,
because
not at all.
It too is fruit of the poisonous tree.
All of it.
That is what she's arguing. That's part of her argument. But also at that hearing, something else was revealed.
Here we go.
Which is perhaps even more dramatic.
Watch
and
this.
Makes her case even more substantial.
Here we go.
Okay, so hold on. But before we get to that, let me finish up this part. I know there's a lot of stuff to discuss.
We got more.
So just so the audience knows, that's what she's trying to argue. She's trying to say everything that followed as a result of you figuring out that Brian Kohlberger's DNA, his dad's DNA, was traceable from that knife sheath has to be removed.
Get it out.
You have to get rid of it.
Get it out.
Including the cheek swab. Now, the judge did not seem like he was going to do that. He seemed very into the actual cheek swab, and he didn't sound like a man who thinks that's fruit of any poisonous tree.
It's fruit.
But
of
here
the
he is,
poisonous
Judge
tree.
Hitler, talking about that DNA match in SOT 43.
Here we go.
There's a DNA match between the DNA in the sheath and Mr. Kohlberger.
Shit happens.
Isn't that probable cause every day and twice on Sunday?
No. It doesn't exist. It's
Not in this context.
not in this context.
Not
Absolutely.
in this context because of the IgG work.
That's right. That's right.
That's, again, she's saying the investigative
There was other
genealogy
DNA too. We'll talk about that.
undermines it and makes it unusable. We continue to
That's
face
right.
uncertainty when it comes to the economy.
That's right. Now, are you done with your little spiel here? All right. We're going to move on to the next one because we got more. Shocking new details raise questions about the eyewitness to the Kohlberger thing, which we'll talk about. But listen, the blood of the two unknown males found at the Idaho murder's house. Guys, there was blood in that glove outside. There was blood on the rail on the steps. Guys, you cannot overlook this. Why the feds have not checked those DNAs, those blood, have not went further with it is beyond me. Let's go.
On the subject of blood, what you were going to say, we learned about those two other spots of blood.
That's right.
In the course of the hearing on January 23rd, Ann Taylor, Kohlberger's attorney, revealed that there has been blood found in the house belonging to two unknown males. The blood was found on a banister, a handrail, going up to the second floor, and also inside a glove outside the front of the house. Blood from two unknown people. Now, this was a party house, so you can imagine there'd be fingerprints on the handrail, but what reason is there for blood? And what
We're not even going to analyze that, look into it.
reason is for there to be blood on the glove? And if they would belong to someone who had gone to the house during one of the parties, well, how hard would it have been for the authorities to track down the fraternity boys who came in and out of the house and gotten blood samples from them? But to this date, 2.5 years later, they still have not been able to identify the blood.
Make that
When
make
the judge
sense.
heard
Make that
this,
make
He
sense.
said in open court, "Are you saying that Kohlberger had other people working with him? This doesn't mean Kohlberger was
That's crazy to say.
but there could have been accomplices. Accomplices. This throws out, a new mystery into the case.
Absolutely,
And
it
here's
does.
how Ann Taylor is using it. She says the real question is, how did the knife sheath get there?
That's right.
She is now going to argue in the course of the trial that these two unknown males, either one of them or both of them, put the knife sheath on the bed.
Yep.
They were involved in the murder. And
Yep.
Kohlberger, prior to the murder, had somehow innocently
Touched it.
the knife
Remember what I told y'all about touch DNA and how that shit sits there for 6 weeks?
sheath. The DNA on the knife sheath is just touch DNA. And she is claiming that, or will claim at the trial, that this was done innocently by Kohlberger.
That's right.
It's a argument that can raise a lot of doubts, I believe, in a jury's mind.
And that is what ultimately matters. The fact is, it can raise doubts in the jury's mind. My position is simple. I don't care if he did it or not. At this stage, I'm tired of the way these fucking investigations are working. I'm tired of the Delphi investigation. I'm tired of this investigation. These goddamn police are a problem. The way that our rights are being violated consistently, this is a problem. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't believe they have enough to convict him, but there's part of me that feels like he did it, and even if he did, this case needs dismissed. Once again, your life is not more important than the overall constitutional rights of us all. And that is my position, period. You're just one person, or in that case, 4 people. Our constitutional rights for 350 million Americans is more important, and that's the truth. And to all you people that are from all these weird little countries everywhere else, I don't give a fuck what you think. Here in America, we're supposed to be the land of the free. Here in America, we're supposed to have constitutional rights. And that is how the country has been the way it's been and grown the way it is to the superpower that it is. That is what's special about America and what allows America to be the place where you can have the American dream in and the promise of freedom. I don't give a fuck what you people in other countries think. That is the truth, and that is what matters. Now, going back to this, we're done with this whole Idaho 4 thing. You know my position here. But guys, new crime scene photos have been released in the Delphi murder case. And I want to show you what they are. Well, those are kind of smaller, so let me get you a bigger image. All it is the phone. I don't know why they released these. It's just the phone. What's her name's phone? Sitting there. It's wet and damp. No wonder whoever killed her didn't find it. It was, I guess under these trees. But here's the funny thing. Remember it said that, something plugged into the phone and all of that? And then, so I don't know. I want to see more of these crime photos, but because I'm not seeing like any blood. I guess some of that could be blood stain, but I don't think so. I'm not seeing like any blood or anything. I guess it's just all dampness. I'm curious about it. But then again, it could be anything. But yeah, the phone has been found.
We're seeing photos from the Delphi murders crime scene. These pictures shared publicly by the state of Indiana just this week.
Here's a close-up of Libby German's cell phone under the leaves there. And on that phone, the video of, quote, bridge guy from
That's crazy. That survived that. It ain't crazy.
Samantha Johnson, who's been covering this case. Why are we seeing these pictures today?
Yeah.
So you'll remember last month, the defense team filed what they called a motion to correct errors. They gave us several examples and reasons why they felt like Richard Allen's conviction should have been overturned, and that included some conflicting arguments about the cell phone that you saw in those photos. We can tell you now the Carroll County prosecutor has filed his response.
All right.
Richard Allen is serving 130 years in prison for the deaths of Abby Williams.
130 years.
In January, Allen's attorney said it was a mistake. The trial excluded an alleged confession by a man named Ron Logan, who detailed how he killed the 2 girls.
That motherfucker did it.
Carroll County prosecutor Nick McLeland says the man who allegedly heard that confession and told police failed a polygraph miserably.
Oh, shit.
Many of the details are directly contradicted by the evidence.
Okay.
Former prosecutor and defense attorney Brad Banks.
And they're saying the confession was made to another person who panned out to be completely unreliable.
Allen spent most of his time before trial at the Westville Correctional Facility, a placement his attorneys say was, quote, plainly illegal from start to finish.
Of course it was. He wasn't convicted yet.
It impacted Allen's mental health and the outcome of the trial. The state now responding, saying, quote, the motion for safekeeping does not impact the ability to have a fair trial and is not a reason to overturn the verdict.
Look, this guy's in custody. He's not being given a bond. We're just talking about where can we keep him safely. And so that doesn't trigger your right to counsel.
The state also shared these evidence photos of Libby's cell phone found at the crime scene. They say the pictures support their theory that water or dirt could have impacted the phone. But the defense
That
claims
makes sense.
that's not the case.
But-
they say someone activated it
Yeah.
after Libby's phone reportedly stopped moving. So now the state urging the judge to reject Allen's request for a hearing or to overturn the verdict, writing, quote,
No, I think he
"The
deserves.
defense is
I
not
think he
permitted
deserves a
to
hearing.
request a new trial to change strategy when their chosen path fails."
So many details there.
No, I think he deserves a new hearing. No doubt about that, guys. The pictures, I mean, I guess it shows a little something. I can't wait till it all comes out, because you got to remember that whole trial was on lockdown. Now that it's over, all of that information should become public, including crime scene photos, including everything. It should become public now. I don't know, man. I think Kohlberger needs to get his case thrown out. I think actually Richard Allen deserves another trial. That whole Richard Allen thing, man, I mean, that whole Ron Logan thing, I think matters. I still think Richard Allen probably did it, but I'm not 100% sure. You know what I'm saying? So, and then really, if we're going to start sentencing people to 130 years and death penalties, motherfuckers better be goddamn sure. You know what I mean? Anyway, what are your guys' thoughts, man, on Kohlberger's DNA? Do you think he has a chance of? I don't think he has even 1% chance that they'll dismiss that DNA evidence, if you want to know the truth. Not even a 1% chance. I think they should, though. And I think Richard Allen should get a retrial or something of that nature. I do. I truly do. And I think Richard Allen should get a retrial and all of that other evidence be allowed in the trial. What are you guys' thoughts? Guys, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'm JB Gunner. This is Crime Time. If you like what I do here and you find my content valuable, feel free to hit those links down below. Sports Show. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.